If terrified looking artichoke. Hello, game biologist. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to today's board game design stream. Hope y'all are having a lovely, lovely day. It's not terrified. It's just concerned. Just minorly concerned. Of the reflection of the light is just... I should turn that down. How's that? Get a little off the reflection there. How's that? Gotta show off my game. It's a real game. It's exciting. Oh my gosh. So, here we are. What? Sorry, I'm just looking at a tweet online. It has abandoned all artichokes. I don't even know where that is or how it got there. Yeah, so very exciting times. I am holding artichokes, abandoned all artichokes, in my hand for the very first time. Just got to see the physical copies at PAX East. Just came back from PAX East yesterday. It was a very early flight. Still have not nearly caught up on sleep. But I'm pushing through. Wanted to make sure I got on the design stream. Talked about design at least for a little bit. But yeah, I got my game. So this is... I've been working on this for a couple years now. I don't think I've talked about it too much on the show because it was pretty far in development when I started streaming. I've talked about it a little bit. I've talked about it a lot on social media and general places. But yeah, it's a real game. Senior Bob. It's the Abandoned All Artichokes Hour. Da, na, 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 na. It's definitely a look of dread. Oh, come on, you guys. Congrats, by the way. Gamer is a cool company. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Look, it's just... It doesn't want to be abandoned. I guess that makes it feel even sadder. Yeah, I'm going to show off all the stuff inside here. Yeah, we're going to do board game design, but I'm also just, you know, so excited about this game and having it. I basically spent PAX East walking around and carrying it and just shoving it in people's faces without any context. Like, hey, look at this. And I designed this game. This is a little sticker. This actually comes in the game. It's a sticker that you can put on stuff. There's a sweet rulebook with all the powers and it's a very nice description in there. Yeah, where's the... Yeah, and a very nice layout, player setup area, which I think is very helpful for this kind of a game. Despite the title, no harm or offense is intended towards artichokes. Truth be told, we really like them, braised with garlic and lemon to be exact. When we first saw Emma Larkins' Deck Wrecker, we were immediately infatuated with its ease of accessibility to casual players while still offering a challenge to seasoned fans of deck building games. And just like the Noble Artichoke, you'll find that the heart of this game can only be found after peeling away the many layers of delicious strategy. So, great text, great puns, pretty much the best I could have asked for. There's different faces on the various artichokes. You got concerned, not, not terrified, unsure, happy face. There's a little happy face. I like the happy face. We got all some player aids as well, which is fun and handy. And all the different vegetables, little hands and arms and feet, and all of them have different. I guess the glare is there a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit better. All of them have little faces, different expressions. Rhubarb, that's the promo card. Mad Potato. Yeah. So that's my game. Not available in retail yet, but you can pre-order it on Amazon. Or talk to your local game store, because many stores will base their ordering on how many people ask for the game. So that can be very helpful for them if you want to get a copy and support your local game store. Yeah, it's my game. It's a real thing in the world. It's super exciting. You know, so it's super exciting when your game baby grows up and goes out into the world. Exactly what I'm saying. Just like, it's a nice tin. It stands very well on a shelf, so that's super handy. It's a fun shape. So yeah, what more can you ask for? The faces, the art is perfect balance of adorable and humorous. Cool. So yeah, as I mentioned, been traveling a lot, still a little bit out of it, very much jet lagged. So I will do my best to talk about ideas, design some games. I don't think there's anything in particular that we were talking on the Twitters for today, so we're just gonna start fresh, start from scratch. I did, however, see an interesting prompt question from Ross on Twitch about social deduction games that are good for anxious souls. And my suggestion was The Mind. I think the deduction is, you know, what number, when is it my turn to play the number, what number was just played. So I think there's a light element of there, but there's none of the, there's not bluffing, because it is cooperative, so you're trying to work together, but you're trying to figure things out in a group. I think a lot of games just gravitate towards the hidden role, bluffing, lying, social mechanics of games, just because that's what we've had for a long time. I used to play Mafia way back in college, so it's been around for a long time. People know what that is, and I think a lot of times when they make games in that sphere, they do riffs off of the existing big games, which are often those. But I think there's a ton of really interesting space to explore in that world, because it's really tapping into social dynamics. That is not social at all. Social dynamics, interacting as a group, exploring interesting interactions. I got to see this really cool game at PAX over the weekend that was an actual tin. You had two teams deciding between two different options based on a Schrodinger's cat theme, and each team put one of their cards into the box, and then you sealed it with a sticker. And the social aspect of this game was, you're not supposed to just say like, oh, I put this thing on the cat, and I put the cat in the suit or outside of the suit. So it's like, are you trying to save the cat? Are you trying to kill the cat? Back and forth. And the game itself is really about, you know, what kind of conversations do the actions I took sparked. So it's not that there's no lying in it. There's not a ton. After each team has chosen their thing and put it in the box, you're not even doing it. You're just deciding whether or not you're going to open the box, basically. That's pretty much all you're doing for most of the game. But it's interesting and fascinating and dynamic, and different groups react to it in different ways. So that's a really good example of a game that uses the way that people socially interact without forcing them to act unnaturally. Because lying is unnatural for most people. So you create a framework for reaction that doesn't force people to interact I guess this is a broader sphere as well, because social deduction is I think it's a big part of social games, mostly because there are games that exist in that, and there are other more indie games that are social interactions, but they're maybe not as gamified, so they exist, but they're not as common or as well known. Because the spread of them, how you explain it, you know, explaining a game such as the Resistance, it's like you're on two teams, you're trying to figure out who are the spies and who are the Resistance, and you have a very discrete, known series of actions that you take, so it does have the game framework to it, but most of the fun of the game relies on the players and their ability to create interesting impromptu narratives within the framework of the game. So it puts a lot of pressure on the players. Pressure on players to be funny and interesting. I know a lot of people are actually uncomfortable with these kinds of games. I don't know if I've been a little uncomfortable with them, but I think I don't hate them, and I've had fun playing them, but I've definitely felt unmoored, and not in a fun way. I felt like I just wasn't having that much fun. You know, I don't hate them, but just, especially if you have some people that are arguing or very loud, taking up a lot of the space. There's a lot of environments where those games can kind of fall apart. That's why I'm very interested in different takes on that sort of a game, such as The Mind, right? You are figuring things out. You're doing it socially. This one's very limited communication, so it is kind of sitting there, not saying a lot, but it's fun. The game, not everyone loves it. I love that game. And it's usually using different types of social interactions and framing social actions in a different way. So I think there's just a ton of different ways that you could potentially explore that. And most people have just stuck to what already exists because that's what they know. But I think there could be lots of different ways to make those kinds of games. Senior Bob asks, will it be at Barnes and Noble? Oh yeah, we're talking about Banner Artichokes. Banner Artichokes. I don't know yet. The ideal for me eventually would be that it would be sold where all fine Gamewright games are sold, but they have a lot of stuff in their catalog, and some stuff is more widely purchased than other things. You never really know right at the beginning what's really going to be a hit. So it's definitely going to be in local game stores and hobbyist game stores. As far as bigger mass market stores, it has the potential. They have the ability to get games into those stores, but you know, gone are the days where a company would just buy a whole publisher's catalog and just have that in every store, 10 copies in every store that they own. There's definitely, Gamewright has a lot of games, other publishers have a lot of games, so there definitely is competition for the spots, but someday, I think there's a potential for it. I think the game is going to do well. The reception at PAX East was very, very good. It definitely was hitting that audience of less experienced game players. I was hoping that it would hit. And I really think that it will spread among those kinds of groups. But there's a lot of factors that go into it. So hopefully we'll see. Fingers crossed. The Senior Boss is not a social deduction game person. Too meta for me. Interesting. Some interesting, like, too meta. What is that? What does that mean? Game Outlet says the social part of social deduction seems to be the part that turns off my friends. Okay, interesting. It's that I'm not a good liar. It makes me uncomfortable to lie in my friends dynamic. There's a big difference between lying and the kind of bluffing or misdirection that's typical in other games. Okay, that's an interesting distinction there. Lying versus bluffing. You know, one is outright having to come up with something on, like, look someone in the eyes and say something that you know to be untrue. I'm wondering, because a lot of the deduction games you have to make elaborate lies or weave elaborate untruths. I personally found, and I'm, like, I do like social games, but I'm not an expert at that. And I'm not super comfortable with that. I've had fun in, I usually play more of a small part. I played a lot of Resistance, and sometimes I really get into it and do elaborate things, but I, for the most part, kind of hang back in the group. And that's also, you know, not always as much fun. But I had a ton of fun with Cockroach Poker, which is a game where you can tell the truth or lie about your card, but you're only saying what is on the card. So you don't have to make this big meta thing about it. You just say, Scorpion. I think that's one of the things that can be on the card. So some people still have an issue with that kind of a game, but it was very popular in my group, and I had a good time with that. Email says they deduct the heck out of the things in a flat second if they didn't have to lie during that. Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. You know, the lying kind of makes it not be over in 2 seconds and just be like, oh yeah, well, we know the answer. Schrodinger's hot potato. I don't know what that is, but I like it. Email says, interestingly, 2 truths and a lie tends not to make people that kind of uncomfortable. Maybe because the lying is already admitted, so it's less of a lie. That's an interesting point. Because in these social deduction games, you may be lying or you may be telling the truth. Whereas 2 truths, a lie, you're both. You are telling some truths and some lies. I think it's also, what do you gain out of lying? Because we're like breaking down. Lying is a social taboo, right? The functioning of human society requires that most people tell the truth most of the time. Because communication is important to us, we need to work together, on and on. And people do lie, and oftentimes it's to benefit themselves or to protect themselves, and I think that's really when the lying becomes a problem. And in these games, you're lying to win the game. So you're lying because there's a specific benefit for you as a person. You think about, like, children telling tall tales or fictional stories are lying in a way, right? So if you ask a child a not serious question, like the child is asking, like, their French fries are gone, and you ask if they ate all the French fries, and they say, well, the dog ate them. So did you feed them to the dog? And the kid's like, well, and they make up stories about it. I think 2 truths and a lie falls more into the realm of making up a story as opposed to lying. There's a subtle difference between those 2 things. And again, if a child is making up a story or a tall tale, you know that there's a lie involved. 2 truths is a lie, you know that there's a lie or an untruth. So knowing 100% is a big factor of that. So you're on the inside. You're part of the in crowd, as opposed to the uncertainty, even gaslighting, keeping you on uncertain ground, the not knowing where you stand. It can be very uncomfortable for most people. Dear Bob says, I once got sucked into a game of Coup, and that's a game where you need to know all the other roles to try and figure out what another players might align to. Yeah, that... There's also a game knowledge aspect going on there. I would say experience versus inexperience is what I'm going to write this down as. Social deduction games are often a lot harder for newer players. They're not easy to get into. There are unspoken rules. And guidelines, behaviors. And if you have hidden information, it's hard because you can't ask what it means. You know, for your, if you have a certain hidden role, you're this sort of person, and you have questions that would give away what you are, what you're thinking. So it has that double negative effect of playing a game, like, it's hard to learn as you play. Hard to discuss and get feedback on your actions during the game. And then a lot of them, because they're just conversation and they're not bounded, just go on for a long time. Unbounded time frame. Could go on forever. So not only do you not necessarily get a lot of discernible feedback during the game, it takes a while to get to the end of that game so that you can discuss it and figure out if you're even doing, you might just be doing the total wrong thing, right? Like for Sheriff of Nottingham, there's some rules about like what you put in the bag and so on and so forth. You might just be doing it wrong because people don't know what you're doing. So all those things kind of contribute to it to being just a little bit tough. Email says, I actually designed a prototype for a class assignment a few years back that used lying as a mechanic. Okay. Intent was to make an ice-breaking game told true, truth, and a lie. It's a card game. You challenge another player with a card that says something like, tell me about the first dish you learned to cook, and to figure out if they're telling a true story or not. You gained lost cards based on whether you got fooled. You see, that again is... Again, honestly, it's more of a storytelling game. So, yeah, that's that line between storytelling and lying. I think that's what it comes down to, and why people are more comfortable with two truths and a lie. It's less about pure deception and more about coming up with a convincing story. And convincingness is just a property of a story that you can manage. Deception, more about telling a convincing story. And the other aspect of it is there's much less time when you're in the dark. Like for Two Truths and a Lie, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then you have the resolution. So the longer the lie gets drug out, you know, the longer you're trying to deal with and manage it. And again, part of this, especially if you're just joining us, a lot of our thesis, we're not saying that social deduction games are bad. There's a lot of people who love social deduction games, a lot of people, that's their favorite type of games. They, especially the simpler ones, can be more accessible to a general population because there's not thinking and analysis, which can be tricky for people. Instead, you can just, like, you are making up stories for the resistance. You're on a team, you pick who's on, you have your hidden role, especially for the base part of it. You decide who's on your team, then you vote, what do you vote for? Who's going to be the next person in charge of the team, and then it's been a while since I played that game. And then you vote for whether the team is going to actually assemble or not, and most of it is just talking. So that can be an easier thing for people, for certain people to get into. And I've had fun with those in the past, and it's great. But we're looking to kind of capture, with the ideas we're coming up today, we're looking to capture some of that stuff without some of the things that people find difficult about them. Alright, what's next? Game Battle says the best story of my playtest was a colleague who spun a tale about joining a swingers group with her husband. Oh my gosh, that seems awkward. And living that lifestyle but not really talking about it at work because people wouldn't really understand it. She was very convincing. Wow. See, but wow, that's intense. You know there's people who didn't actually think it was a lie, right? I'm sure they were probably so convincing that there's still people who are like, I think that's an actual thing, or didn't hear about it being a lie. That's cool. That's funny. All right, so we talked a little bit about the framework, why some of these things are fun, why they're difficult for some people. So let's think about what we could do here, what we could change. Like, what are some of the knobs that we can move or dial in? Again, I don't know if it... I should look it up on Board Game Geek. The Mind. I think that The Mind, Board Game Geek, falls into this social category. Even though you're not talking, so you're not you're not supposed to communicate, but you are trying to figure something out. You're figuring it based on social signals or timing or speeds. You have very limited information, and you're not trying to miscommunicate. So let's just dig into The Mind a little bit, what we like about it. So you are communicating. You aren't trying to miscommunicate. Minimal communication. Mostly just based on the speed. The speed at which people play. And you're trying to figure things out. What number was just played? When should I play my number? And it very much captures the social aspect. I think it does that very well. Social in person. I think that those are very important to what I would like to capture in this sort of a game. In-person aspect. So you are looking at people, observing, feeling the tension, holding your cards, who puts a card on top of another one is all very pertinent to the gameplay. Social in-person aspect. I'm not trying to miscommunicate. So yeah, for this game that we're thinking about developing, do we want it to be something where there was a storytelling miscommunication aspect? Yeah. I'm just gonna say social game. Lying. Yes or no? And that kind of feeds into, is it cooperative or competitive? Oh, actually, oh shoot, I should mention that on the original Twitter thread. Because Ross had posted on Twitter. Ross, whose handle is... what is your handle? More Games PLS, if you want to check out the thread. Looking for these kinds of social deduction games that are a little easier to get people who aren't a big fan. Princess Tofu game. Yeah, this is really Tofu Kingdom. Cool. All right, so in Tofu Kingdom, the roles are handed out. There's some objectives. So you basically have 3 different teams. The Princess Tofu team wants the Mochi Prince to marry Princess Tofu. The Queen wants the Prince to marry her. And there's some Chaos Agents. But what's nice about this is everything is very structured. So the person whose turn it is asks questions, but it's all very prescribed. So they ask every person in the group one question. The questions are very limited. It's like, who are you? Who is that? Are you this character? So you are lying, but you can kind of prep your answers to the questions ahead of time. Everyone. So it answers a lot of those questions of a more open-ended game. Who am I supposed to be talking to? What am I supposed to be saying? There's answers to all those questions. Everyone gets asked a question. Questions are limited to 3 things. Oh, and the other important aspect of it is your role decides whether you can tell the truth or lie. So the Princess Tofu team always has to tell the truth. The Queen team has to always lie, and the Chaos team can do either. And there's helper aids on each card, which is super handy because you always have right in front of you what the things are. The truth or lie is determined at the beginning of the game. What am I doing? Looking for things. Princess Tofu. Princess Tofu. Or Princess Tofu. The Tofu game. The game about, is it Tofu Kingdom? Yeah, there we go. Also, just the art is super cute, very limited components. So that's a good one to consider from a design perspective, because I think it's doing a lot of things that help. I think you could still go even farther towards capturing the same social feeling, because you're still lying. You still have to make things up. So yeah, on our chart here we have that. Is that something that you would want to have a game? Do you lie or don't you lie? Do you want it to be cooperative or competitive? More determined, less determined? I would say definitely on the more determined side. And we just can combine and contrast these things, right? Say like, okay, there's yes lying and it's a cooperative game. What would that even look like? Competitive. So we could just do all the different combinations, right? And start from there. First game idea. Has lying is cooperative, because that's fascinating, right? Like, if you, not a hidden betrayer game, but is an actual 100% cooperative game, but some people have to lie, like, would that even work? If you're all trying to win, like, how would that work? Because people would know, because it might not work, because you have to make things up to lie, and you might make things up in such a way that you're lying, but not in a way that would negatively impact the game. So would having a liar in a cooperative game just make their role, or if everyone lies and you know everyone is lying, having a liar, would it make the role useless? Because sure, I'll lie and say, is the bomb going to explode in 2 minutes? Or when is the bomb going to explode? And if it's 3 minutes, I could say 2 minutes and 59 seconds, right? There's a lot of ways to technically lie, but still give basically the same information. So, yeah, it's a tough question. I don't know. Oh, man, excuse me. And then take on some of these elements of lots of limited actions. Like, you have very limited actions and you know exactly what they are. I think that's an important part for when we're looking here. And I say easy to know what they are. So there can be a lot to remember, as you had mentioned earlier with coup, for example. If there's a lot of things you just have to hold in your brain and remember, it also becomes partly a memory game, right? For a lot of social deduction games, like you're trying to, for resistance, does a certain thing succeed or fail? And I think that the bad people are trying to make a thing fail, right? So you have to remember, okay, if I'm on this team, am I trying to make it fail? There's a lot of hidden things in there. Limited actions, easy to remember, or easy to reference. Don't have to hold a lot of stuff in your brain. Because that's an important aspect, right? A lot of these games do overlap a little bit with memory games, and memory games are traditionally often looked down upon. A lot of people will just say, I don't like memory games. A lot of people seem to have had bad experiences with memory games, because I had heard this floating around, and now that I'm testing a memory game, I've definitely come across that. So that's another thing that social deduction games have that can, again, lead it to being a very divisive experience. I'll put it that way. So they'll have a memory aspect. Sometimes they'll often have a reference, but the thing is, if you look at the reference, people kind of know that you are lying, right? Like cockroach poker. If you just say what's on your card, you just look at it and say it. If you have to look at the reference for what all the different animals in the game are, and you can use that as a bluff, you can kind of do stuff, but having to reference things, like, you're usually better if you can, better at the game if you can remember what all the things are. You have a good memory. Also remembering what different people have said. Catching people in... catching people where they've switched sides, or they said one thing and now they're saying a different thing. If you can compare and contrast that in your memory, that makes you better at the game, right? Which is tough for people who aren't very good at that. It says, sounds very Prisoner's Dilemma. Yeah. Cooperative game. Little white lies to protect a friend. Ooh, I like that. Do you say you don't have the resources to go to the park, even if you do, if you know there's someone there who will hurt them? Protect a friend. I like that. Yeah, like a 2-player game. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what would the framework of this look. So let's look at this option that Game Biologist has put out and see, you know, how mechanically would that work. Just break it down based on the suggestion. So you're going to different locations. Things there could help or hurt the other person. You know, if they don't, you can't communicate to them. This is so messed up too, right? Because shouldn't we be working on saying what we mean and not being deceptive and just having better communication in general? It's like, yeah, but is that fun for a game? Can't communicate to them that they should or shouldn't go to a location. And limited communication in some way. Not sure what that would look like. You get points from successfully directing them to or away from things. So again, on putting heavy limitations on what you can and can't do. You have to... This is just getting weird in my head. That's fine. Hopefully it'll land somewhere useful. You have to reject your friends' invitations. Trying to do it in such a way that they're not suspicious of what the real problem is. Team-based, maybe? So maybe this worked better instead of like a real full co-op game, team-based, because Stoner Parking Lot has this interesting team aspect to it where you're trying to communicate. This is a very funny game. You're trying to communicate with your partner. You're trying to get one of each card in your hand and then secretly signal your partner that you're ready to go smoke weed with them, right? Because it's Stoner Parking Lot. Without the other team catching you. Both teams are doing this at the same time. So this could be interesting in a team aspect where you're trying to do a white lie to obscure obscure the reason they should or shouldn't do something. Team is trying to figure out what the real reason is. I'm just spitballing things here because I'm trying to feel around what it is I'm trying to do with this idea. You're trying to tell lies to get your teammates, plural maybe, to take certain actions. Opposing teams are trying to deduce what actions they will take. So teammate flips or like plays a card or secretly flips one of their tiles or something. Opposing team is trying to play the same card. So you're trying to lie in such a way that your partners pick up on what you're doing, but your opponents don't. Interesting. I think this is a cool idea. I think I'm still trying to frame it in my mind exactly how things are. It's like, what am I trying to say exactly? Well, it says, protecting your friend from their toxic ex. Don't want to bring up the ex's name if you don't have to, since it brings up old scars. Okay. I think there's some fun stuff there. And maybe lean into an existing game as a framework for what we're thinking of here. So like cockroach poker, but semi-cooperative or team-based. Okay. So again, that's getting a little bit what I'm trying to do with this. And this seems to be a little bit different. We got a couple of like first game idea and 1.5, a couple of slightly different variations going on here. And this one I'm leaning more into the team aspect, and this is maybe more purely cooperative two-player. Oh, maybe this will be the second one. There we go. Lying to protect a friend. That feels very evocative too. I like that as a starting point. Team-based information hiding. Say elements of Stoner parking lot. You're lying to give your teammates information. Again, it sounds fun. Hard to wrap my head around and see what that would actually look like, but interesting potentials. Cockroach poker. You always called the ex the cockroach because they scuttled around in the dark and gave everyone who met them the creeping icks. Now it's your turn to do the poking. Poke. So you're poking the cockroaches. Poking like poker. I see what you're doing there. Maybe or not. So it's team-based for this second idea, not pure cooperative, and has lying. So social deduction game that's competitive. We're looking at some of the different word combinations we have here. Yeah, well, we'll come back to this. I'm letting it sink into my brain, hoping that something will just come up because, again, still very jet lagged. My brain is very slow. But give it some time to digest what's happening. Third game idea. No lying is competitive. And all these are within the social deduction sphere. So again, this is very different than a lot of the existing stuff. So it's like, there's no lying, misdirection, maybe? Yes or no? You're obfuscating the truth based on which truth. You're obfuscating the goal answer based on which truths you reveal. Trying to mislead with distracting truths. I'll say something like, did you see who was murdered? And you answer, there's milk in the fridge, which is a truth, but not answering the question. Again, I don't know if that seems like a weird example, but something like that. Giving information / clues that could be red herrings. People need to decide which pieces of information to pay attention to. Okay, there seems to be there's something there. Many red herrings. Yeah, no lying specifically. So Rob, I like the idea of trying to communicate with another person through unconventional methods. Oh my gosh, yes. That's like I feel a lot of my inspiration just in general. Yeah. And then we died. That's literally what that game is about. Okay. So what types of communication? Or what types of unconventional methods? And how can you lie using unconventional methods? Because maybe it's not necessarily that lying is hard. Maybe there's ways to make lying easier. Like, what if you lied with pictures or cards, like drawings or cards or resources? I like that. Okay, this is good, Senior Bob. I think this is another potential direction to go into. Making lying easier. Lying's like that. So we can say for this one, has lying. It's competitive or cooperative, decide. So instead of lying, traditional social deduction, like, I'm not a werewolf, right, is the most traditional. Just flat out saying, like, making things up, you know, and having to do that. Because there's a lot in your voice and your face and your expression and your just everything about it, right? People make careers around figuring out if people are lying or not. Yeah, so instead of saying, using words, you draw a picture. Oh, what does your character look like? You're a cat, you draw a bird, right? And then you hand it to them, so you don't have to do, even you're still creating something, but yeah, you don't have to say it and go through that process of them staring you down as it happens. I don't know, it just feels different. You give them a card from your hand that has some information. Are you the murderer? Hand them a card that says no. And if you're talking about a lying game, that seems a lot easier, right? I don't know if I want to do also just the traditional good team, bad team, spies, clue, murder thing. I think you could play around with the themes for this sort of a game as well. But, so yeah, just using these as examples. But yeah, you pass them a certain number of cubes or resources. How old are you? Give them 10 tokens. You're really 100, right? So playing around that space and finding in that space things that you can do that that you don't just have to say. Because I think that just the creativity aspect, there's the memory aspect, remembering what someone did or said in the past. There's the improv aspect of it, where you have to tell the story. It's not just, are you a werewolf or not? And like, oh, I'm not a werewolf. You know, it's like, oh, well, why did you do X? And then you have to come up with a reason. Like, your actual reason is, well, I did X because I'm a werewolf, but you can't say that. So say, like, well, I was trying to make sure that so-and-so didn't do such and such a thing. So there's many layers and complexities to that, and removing some of those could make games easier and more accessible to certain audiences. Okay, more alternate communication styles. Styles of communication. Yeah, can only communicate through double entendre. And as a sidebar to that, I just want to have, like, a bunch of cards in the deck, and they're all double entendres. A bunch of cards in the deck, and they're all puns. I just want to make a big deck of puns or double entendres, because those are the kind of things I can never think of them in real time when I want to. So just having a reference deck of applicable puns, I think that would be very good and handy. to become a better punner. Excuse me. Just exaggerating the truth. As far as it's like over, under. How much money do you have? You have to communicate +5 or -5 from the truth, right? Over, under. So limited communication, limited information, really constraining all of the things around. These ideas. And what really excites me about this and why I really want to dig into it is because I think a lot of this is why people play games. Some people absolutely play games because they just like the math of it. They just like thinking through the things. They like solving puzzles, the puzzle solving aspect of it. But a lot of people play games so they can be with people, so they can be social within a framework. One reason people and I think that's part of why social deduction games have become so popular. That, again, I used to play Mafia a lot in college because I went to Stanford and there was a lot of very socially awkward nerds, myself included, who had grown up in very constrained environments, who hadn't learned social skills before going to college, and this was us trying to feel out how to interact with other human beings through this game. And not that, you know, you want to learn how to lie or that you need to learn how to lie, but interacting with people in a space where there are uncertainties. So say in a safe space. Because games have uncertainties, right? And normal life has a lot, or everyday life, has a lot of uncertainties that you need to navigate. And that can be very difficult socially for, does this person like me? Does this person hate me? Is this person going to be my friend? Are we getting along? Are we on the same page with certain things? Like, there's so many things that you might need to go back and forth. Are they being totally honest? Not like lying, but are they really saying everything that they mean? Are they holding something back? And kind of play acting within a framework to experience some, like, a smaller, safer version of these situations, I think can be a very valuable thing. Cool. So I had a couple of ideas here. Alternate communications. Lying through, not through spoken words. Yeah, okay, so you can even do written words. can only communicate through writing. Lying through, like, Scrabble style spelling. Lying through Ouija style positioning tokens on a board. Or moving tokens around a board. Allocating resources in certain locations. So all of these are taking traditional board game mechanics of putting things in places, but putting an aspect of communication and lying to those things. I think it's very interesting, very fascinating. You know, it says, makes me think of the Monty Python skit with the, is your wife a goer? Does she go? I haven't seen that one. I have to check that out. Let's see, that sounds very funny. Senior Bob says, so what are social skills? I know, right? It's tough, and that's why games are great. They can potentially teach you, but also, if you're not necessarily learning the social skills, they just let you be in social spaces and perform better in social spaces. Whew, nice. All right, making lying easier. Our third game idea was solving mystery with many red herrings. So, not lying, it's competitive. You're not giving wrong information. Instead, you're giving... the game isn't about giving wrong information. The game is about giving information at the wrong time. And this could be wrapped into something like this idea that we're talking about through positioning things, passing people cards, giving them tokens. So maybe you're doing all these things and lying with them is one potential direction to go into. Or maybe you're doing these things and telling the truth, but just at a bad time. And so I'm just going to copy all these things and take out the lying. And doing the things below at a bad time. And communicating. Communicating. Passing cubes and resources. And as far as the timing aspect goes, like when is a bad time, right? You have informational cards of certain types in your hand. Each round you give someone one of the cards, maybe in response to a question. Then you have fewer and fewer cards to decide between. So you need to get your timing right. So also kind of elements of 13 days or Twilight Struggle, potentially, where everything, depending on the turn or the round, you have a handful of stuff that might benefit you or benefit your opponent, but you're trying to figure out which round, in which round is this the least useful to my opponent. And it could be resources too, right? Like, oh, I'm going to build a bridge this turn, but you just gave me all wheat. That doesn't help me. Give them all wheat. Yeah. Nudge, nudge. Is this a link to the thing? Yes. Oh, thank you. You're so helpful. This is really great. I'm just laughing, looking at it. I'm excited. Send your mom. Bad times to tell the truth. Weddings and funerals. Yeah, I wonder if we could work that in. In some way. Like maybe you decide first whether to tell the truth or lie. And then you find out what the event is. Yeah, so it's like your gerbil died. Or your gerbil is doing great. And then you find out it could be funny stuff too. They're in the middle of getting married. I don't know, that could just be a funny thing in general. It's like, oh, you walk up to someone and say, so you're playing a game, right? So you don't know what contexts are. What is the context for hidden context? Subtext? Question mark? So none of these is really a good time to figure out that your gerbil has died, but grocery store is probably a little bit better than in the middle of getting married. You have a limited number, or like you must tell the truth X times and lie X times. Maybe you find out the event beforehand and allocate your truths and lies based on that. You don't know if there will be better or worse times to tell the truth, lie in the future. You see, there's so many different recombinations you can do. This is fun. It's like you pick, and again, having just really constrained things and fun party humor games, you pick truth or lie for the turn. Make this another fifth game idea. Shoot, now I have like multiple ideas I'm trying to write down at the same time. What is the context or hidden context later? Right, your opponent picks or randomness picks the scenario, place, event, and then or there's a random or chosen context, then you perform whatever it is. Still a performance aspect to this, but everything is constrained. So, and as Gameabolish had mentioned earlier, it's known based on the cards whether you're telling the truth or lying, so a little less pressure that way. So that's funny. So you're gonna lie this turn, and the opponent picks in the middle of getting married, and then the random chosen context or a question what could be like, how is your relationship? Or they know something. I don't know why I keep picking in the middle of getting married. I think it's just a very evocative scenario. So if it's truth, they're in the middle of getting married, they know something about your relationship. Your partner is really in love with you. So maybe the truth or lie is hidden. Yeah, it's like, what is the game here? What is the you're trying to figure out? They figure out whether it's truth or lie. I don't know, there's something there. I'm not sure exactly, but there's some sort of storytelling, funny, back and forth element. What part of it is the game? Oh, that's fun. It's really interesting. This is great. I love this prompt for today. I feel like probably, again, because I'm still a little bit sleepy, but I haven't landed on completely what these games look like, but there's on multiple of these ideas. I feel there's a lot of room to move forward and progress. Came out as this old school social deduction. The newlywed game only counts if someone says making whoopee at some point in the game. Alright, what else? more old school gaming. Match game, but you've got to include one of those funky, long, skinny microphones in the game. Nice. Oh yeah, I just kept getting stuck on the different game ideas, because we came up with a lot more ideas as well. Yeah, fifth game idea. Oh, what do I want? It's just a party game with simple guessing and fun performances, storytelling. So up here a little bit farther, we had making lying easier with doing cards or drawing. I think anything that's not, even if it was werewolf. Oh man, mod werewolf. Maybe I'll do that 4.5. So what if you did a game like Werewolf or Mafia or Resistance or whatever? But you can only communicate with resources, cards, tiles, or tokens. Either secretly or publicly. Huh. It's an interesting idea, because these are kind of open source frameworks for games, like a clue deduction game, but instead of, like, that could be an easy solution, right? Making these social deduction games easier for the kinds of people who don't like to just vocalize and have to come up with a whole backstory and remember all of these things. Yeah, just, like, probably without talking. Like, what if it's a werewolf game without talking? I'm excited about that, because I don't know if anything like that has really been done before. Are you a werewolf? Yes, no, or maybe tokens that stay face up. So the benefit is you don't have to remember what people's answers were. You don't have the pressure of making up a whole story, lying to someone's face with your words. There's really just something about, I'm sure there's tons of psychology behind this, right? But if, oh man, just like thinking back to being a child with strict parents, and they pat you down, right? They give you the 9th degree, or however it goes. It's like, were you hanging out with such and such a friend that we don't want you to hang out with? Like, if you just send them a letter, you know, just be like, no, I was not doing that, as opposed to having to look them in the face and saying it. It's much harder, right? So having tokens and resources and things could be a lot easier. Of course, there would have to be more of a framework to this. Reasons to take some actions over others. Ooh, I like this. Maybe there's a limit to the number of times you can lie. Each time you lie, you're keeping track of it secretly. At the end of the game, it's revealed, something that's easy for everyone to see. So there's that social pressure there. Maybe it's a deduction game. You're going to be asked 5 questions. Can only lie 3 times. You have to be careful when exactly you use your lies. That could be cool. We're thinking about it as a werewolf or resistance or spy game. But then maybe its teams might be more interesting if it's just everyone is a different thing. Deduce everyone is trying to figure out what everyone else is. So there's some global information. In addition to personal information. Yeah. Yeah, that's the seed of the idea. There's a lot of framework to build out around that. I'd have to sit and think about that to see exactly what it looks like. But I like the start of that. That seems very interesting. I think I'd want to push it in a slightly different direction. For me, thematically, the werewolf and mafia and stuff is like not something I'm personally super excited about. But again, if you just took werewolf and broke most of it down into a card showing, card flipping thing as opposed to having to come up with the stories. You need to adjust some of the mechanics to it, but I think you could solve a lot of the frustrations by using a mechanic like that. TMP Robinson, what about you have a rule in your communication? You have to always lie on odd turns and tell the truth on even turns, and people have to figure out, ooh, I like that. That is a little bit, has some elements of the Tofu Kingdom. I like that. Where am I going to put that? Yeah. Copy. I think I'm just going to put it in with this idea here. Although it's kind of a separate idea. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to do that as 5th game idea because I think it's different enough. Now I got to change all my numbers. I need to work on my numbering to make it easier. I like that. Yeah, that seems like that could just be an idea all on its own. Like mastermind with X false answers from the clue giver. Like mastermind is hard enough with just telling the truth, but I think you could frame it in such a way that you can make it interesting and easy. Email says, what about 20 questions where you don't have to answer yes, no, you have to use the most correct answer from the list of answers a magic 8-ball can give. Can end up obfuscating in the truth when you answer with things like outlook good. Okay. I love everything that's coming out of this. Hidden information, partial information, information with unknown veracity. Yeah, so there are 20 questions. Yeah, they're asking the questions. It's like, is it smaller than a toaster? It's like, yeah, outlook good. Or maybe similar to this. Is it smaller than a toaster? Similar, but maybe a little easier because you don't have, I don't know how, is it a D20 in a Magic 8 Ball? No, probably not. How many, I don't know how many answers are in a Magic 8 Ball. Alternately, you're using a randomized subset of those answers. There are cards giving you limited options for responses shuffled together. So on one card, options might be tangentially, have you considered cucumbers? I'm just making things up too. I don't know if these would work or not. And the answer was inside you the whole time. Oh, and it could be like an Oracle game. Okay. Man, we're coming up with a lot of good ideas today. Okay. Oracle game. Right? So you're trying to figure out the solution to a problem, maybe provided by the game to limit the scope. But the quote-unquote sage can only respond in limited answers that are often not helpful. But if you really think about them, you can figure it out. It reminds me a little of French toast. the card game that we've discussed a couple of times on the channel, where I think of an item, you say diamond or car, and I try to figure out if it's my item is more similar to a diamond or a car or to French toast. So if I think up a hamburger, I probably wouldn't do hamburger. If I think up meeple, is a car more similar to or diamond? You said diamond, I'm thinking meeple. Is a diamond more similar to a meeple, or is French toast more similar to a meeple? I said the diamond is hard and small, so I'm going to say diamond. So giving, and that'd be fun if you had cards with just a bunch of sage-like phrases on them. Oracle answers in haiku. I like that too. I'm going to make a note of that. So follow your heart. This is... I need to make a bigger card here. But it's got like 3 or 4 phrases. Pithy. Random. Pick the one that's best for the question. Maybe start with something like 20 questions, like I'm thinking of an item, right? To make it easier. Just make an example. Wow, we spent a lot of time on this. I thought I was going to quit a little earlier because feeling tired, but it's really giving me energy, so thank you for that. But probably be wrapping this up within the next 5 minutes or so, just to give you a heads up for that. I think I'll just write out this example. And then sign off for the night, just so you don't get too excited and then all of a sudden it's over. So what is it made of? And on the card, follow the yellow brick road. Sage questions as inspired by meme-worthy sayings. Do or do not. There is no try. They might have to be yes or no questions. Think about that. Look to the sun. So, yeah. Or this could be a game like Medium or something where you're trying to get to things by degrees. I might say, look to the sun because the sun is made of metal, right? There's metal in the sun. If the sun is hot, so you need heat to forge metal, maybe? I don't know. That probably needs a little more workshopping, but... again, to make it easier, maybe the types of questions you can ask are predetermined. So you just read one of them off from the list. The cards are designed to work with the predetermined questions. So I'm not in a mind state to piece these content pieces together. Because a game like this, content is a big part of it, right? If you come up with the right content, then you can make it fun and easy and accessible and entertaining. Yes, your cat. Framework looks good. I think there's definitely something here. But figuring out what those different pieces are and how they fit together would be the next step for this idea. Wow, yeah. So we have the making lying easier, solving mysteries with red herrings. So you are telling the truth, but it's competitive. So you're giving them information at the wrong times. Give the right information at the wrong times. Cinerama meeple is technically edible, like French toast. Yeah, well, okay. I mean, this is a cooperative game, so you're trying to make them guess. So it's not just what is technically correct, but which of these answers is going to help my teammates come to the right conclusion. You came up with you're lying to give your teammates information. So some games that have lying but are cooperative, like a cooperative lying game, I think that could be super fun and interesting and hard. I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but if you did get it to work, then you get some fun stuff there. Cool. Wow. Good. Excellent. Good job, team. Came with a lot of ideas today. As I always say, if any of these ideas inspire you, if you think you can take a lot of what we said today and run with it and make a game, feel free to go ahead and do that. I will never get around to making all of these game ideas. We usually come up with 5 to 10 game ideas every single show. So yeah, more games than I could ever create, and usually a lot of the ideas over the course of the stream are very exciting and very interesting to me, so I just want to play those games. I think a lot of the stuff, and a lot of thanks to you who are watching and tuning in the chat, are ideas of like groundbreaking ideas, things that we haven't really seen very much in the tabletop game industry. So like a cooperative lying game. I mean, what would that even look like? I want to play that. It's fascinating. And as a pitch, right? The pitch of this is you cooperate and you're lying. Like, wow. I just want to think about that and dig into that because, yeah, that's a pitch that would get me to play. Like, I think that would captivate a lot of people. And then a competitive misdirection game. Sometimes just the pitches of these. Like, I want to get better at coming up with good mechanics to work with my pitches. I always come up with such exciting pitches. It's going to be hard to put that into a game. A misdirection game where you can't lie. Right? It's like fascinating. And then lying, but making it really easy and fun to lie. Like, not as difficult and stressful. There's some simple storytelling games, 20 questions, an Oracle Sage game. Yeah, some great ideas there. Looks good. It's fun. Had a good time with the show. I was less loopy then. I feel like I've been more loopy before and less tired, so it was good. I think I'm going to pop off now, do some recovery. The PAX was definitely a very busy show, and the travel was a lot, so I'm ready to take some more naps. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to think more about these game ideas because I think there's some fun stuff there. As always, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope it was useful to you. I find that brainstorming in a group oftentimes gets your idea juices flowing, and even if we don't talk about the projects necessarily that you all are working on, sometimes just having your brain activate in that way will suddenly give you inspirations or connect to something you've been thinking about. So hope you find this useful. I'm always open to feedback here or on Twitter if you want to talk about the shows, give suggestions, ideas for brainstorming. If there's something you're looking for that you're not seeing, happy to entertain those suggestions. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Hope that your game designs go well, and I will see you around the table. Oh, one last thing. Shoot, do I want to say that? This is what I'm going to say. So for upcoming shows and conventions, you might have heard that GDC, the Game Developers Conference, was canceled, which I'm pretty bummed about because I was going to do a talk there. They should still be having the talks online. We're figuring out the details of that. But I will still be going to San Francisco. And John Brieger and I are putting together a tabletop board game one-day summit with some of the panels, some of the talks that were going to be at GDC, and just networking and general stuff. We're part of a collection of groups that are doing activities for local people and for people who have non-refundable stuff and have to come out anyways. So putting some stuff together. If you're going to be in the area, I'll be able to see you then. I'm probably going to tack Gamma onto that. I'm still not sure how everything's going to fit together, but we're all going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out together, so that'll be fun. If you want to talk in person, those are the best opportunities to do so. All right. Saturday stream. Oh my gosh, I could do Saturday, but morning. Okay. Yeah, that I see, I recognize your suggestion. You are absolutely right. I should do that. I'll see what I can do. Put it on my list. Well, that's enough for today. Catch you all later. Have a good rest of your day.